What's a good calorie target for weight loss? That's a super good question. First of all, you want to get kind of a little estimate of how many calories your body is probably burning on a day-to-day basis. So you want to get what's called like your total daily energy expenditure. You want to know what that number is. And I personally, I like to use the bodybuilding.com calorie calculator to get like a starting number for my clients, because it takes into consideration height and weight, level of activity, and goals. So that's what I usually use first. Use an online calculator to get an estimate of how many calories somebody should be eating for maintenance or for fat loss. And then it's a matter of experimenting, like trying that number, eating that number by, following a meal plan that's made for that number of calories, or tracking what you eat and planning your meals to hit that number of calories every day. You want to test that number and see how your body responds, right? So I would give it like a week, get your starting number, get your estimate, and then weigh yourself, get whatever your body weight is, and then eat that amount of calories for a week. It is a good idea to kind of like weigh yourself every day during that week, and maybe even stretch it out over 2 weeks when you're trying to find that maintenance level. Because you can definitely have your weight fluctuate vastly. So weighing every day is probably a good idea here, and see how your weight was, does it go up? Does it go down? Does it stay the same? If your weight goes up, then it's likely that number of calories that you ate is too high to be like your maintenance level of calories. What I would say is reduce that amount of calories that you're eating by like between 100 and 250, and then try that new number for another week and see how your body weight responds. And keep testing it like this, keep adjusting and testing until you've reached a point where your weight is staying the same or it's dropping down. And if you're comfortable with that, amount that it's dropping, you can stay at that calorie deficit and just see how your body responds over time. If it drops down, then you know that that's a calorie deficit. And if you're trying to burn fat, you could stay with that number. If your weight stays the same and there's no change at all after you've eaten that number of calories every day for a week, then you know that that's probably pretty close to your maintenance level of calories. Once you know how many calories your body needs to stay at maintenance level, where like your weight is more or less like staying the same, then you can make a choice about how fast you want to burn fat and how much weight you want to lose and how quickly. So generally speaking, what we recommend is, if you want to lose a half a pound of fat per week, eat 250 calories below your maintenance level every day. And that will yield about a half a pound of fat loss a week, more or less, give or take. If you are trying to burn 1 pound of fat per week, then you want to eat 500 calories below your maintenance level. So whatever the number is that you landed on, where your weight stays more or less the same, subtract 250 or subtract 500 and aim to eat that number for a couple of weeks to burn fat. The most that you want to go below your maintenance level is about 1,000 calories. And that will give you enough to burn about 2 pounds of fat a week. But, the lower that you go, keep in mind, the lower that you go, the more likely you're going to lose some muscle as well as fat, especially if you're not also doing resistance training. And the more that your body breaks down muscle, it's gonna get harder and harder over time to continue to burn fat as your metabolism slows down. I personally like to keep my clients somewhere between a 250 and 500 calorie deficit when they're in a fat loss phase, because they usually, most of the time when people come to me for fat loss, they also wanna get toned, meaning they also wanna build muscle. And so I have them doing muscle building at the same time that they're trying to burn fat. If you are a beginner, you can totally build muscle and burn fat at the same time. But it just, as time goes by, it gets a little bit harder. And in order to continue to build muscle while you're burning fat, you need to be closer to maintenance. I would say start with a very low deficit, just eat 100 to 250 calories below maintenance. Do that for a couple of weeks, let your body adjust. If you want to accelerate it, then bump it down again to like 500 and then give it a couple weeks. And then I would not recommend staying at a really steep calorie deficit of like 1,000 calories for longer than like 6 weeks to 2 months, because eventually it's going to wear on you. you don't want to be in a steep calorie deficit for too long. And that's how I go about trying to figure out where my clients need to be in terms of their calories.